My name is Phyllis E. Park, and I was 32 years old when my boyfriend looked into a mirror and told me not to attend a party because his female best friend did not like having me around. "Don't come tonight," Mason said while adjusting the collar of his shirt. "Juliana says you make everything feel heavy." I nodded. "Okay." Then I stayed home and packed every possession I owned. When Mason returned at 2 in the morning and found the apartment half empty, he called in a panic. "Where are you?" "Don't worry," I said. "Now she never has to see me again." For 4 years, I had been the foundation of Mason's life. When he quit his corporate job to discover his creative voice in social media marketing, I covered most of the rent on our downtown two-bedroom apartment. When his car broke down, I gave him mine and began taking the bus to my job as a senior systems analyst. I did not resent it. I believed partnership meant creating enough stability for the person you loved to grow. The problem with being someone's foundation is that eventually they stop noticing you are holding everything up. Then they begin complaining that you are too rigid. That was where Juliana entered the picture. She was a lifestyle photographer, which seemed to mean she owned an expensive camera, had family money, and rarely completed work that paid her. She wore silk shirts, traveled without planning, and spoke about energy as though responsibility were a disease. Mason called her his best friend almost immediately. At first, I tried to welcome her. I invited her to dinner and asked about her photography. She responded by treating me like an employee who had interrupted an important conversation. One Tuesday evening, I returned home after 10 hours of managing a complicated server migration. Mason and Juliana were in the kitchen drinking the bottle of wine I had saved for our anniversary. "Oh, Phyllis, you're home," Mason said without looking up. "Juliana was telling me about an underground gallery opening. Tonight? Why not?" "You have a client presentation tomorrow morning." Juliana laughed softly and swirled wine inside my glass. "That's your problem, Phyllis. You always think about schedules and deadlines. Mason is creative. Creative people follow energy." Mason looked at her as though she had spoken something profound. "She's right. You make everything feel like an obligation." "The obligations are why the electricity stays on." Mason rolled his eyes. "Here we go again with money." Juliana stood and patted my shoulder. "We'll leave you to your spreadsheets." They walked out together. I remained in the kitchen staring at the empty bottle. Over the following 3 months, I became a guest inside the life I financed. Mason stopped inviting me to marketing events. Juliana attended every one. He saved his best stories for her and described my promotion as safe while celebrating the vision board she created for him. Whenever I suggested a quiet weekend together, he claimed Juliana believed I was restricting his growth. The disrespect did not arrive as one dramatic betrayal. It leaked slowly through every part of our relationship. Eventually, I understood that I was paying for a life I was not permitted to enjoy. So I began quietly preparing. I transferred my personal savings into a private account. I leased a smaller apartment across the city. I marked every item I owned with a small blue sticker and contacted a moving service specializing in rapid relocations. I did not confront Mason. I waited for him to remove the final excuse for me to stay. That moment arrived on the night of the Black and Gold Gala. Mason spent weeks preparing for it. Juliana had helped launch a new creative collective and convinced him the event could transform his career. He bought a designer suit and expensive shoes using our joint credit card. When I entered the bedroom, Mason stood before the mirror checking his reflection. I opened my suit bag. "What are you doing?" he asked. "Getting ready." His expression tightened. "About tonight, I think you should stay home." I stopped. "Excuse me?" "Juliana doesn't like it when you're around." The room became painfully quiet. "She says you bring corporate judgment into the space. You make the energy heavy." "I am your girlfriend. Don't make this technical." "The judgment you mean is currently paying for your outfit." Mason slammed his watch onto the dresser. "This is why she doesn't want you there. Everything becomes money with you." "Because money is what keeps this apartment running. You're a safety net that has started feeling like a cage." I looked at him carefully. The man wearing clothes purchased with my salary was calling the woman funding his life a cage because Juliana found my presence inconvenient. The old version of me would have argued. but the lease on my new apartment was already signed. Okay, I said. Mason blinked. That's it? I won't come. Relief crossed his face. Good. It's for the best. Order pizza, or do whatever stable people do. He kissed my cheek and left. The moment the door closed, I sent one word to the movers. Go. 10 minutes later, a white van pulled into the loading zone. I pointed toward the blue stickers. Everything marked leaves tonight. I want this place to look like I was never here. As the movers began dismantling my desk, I stood inside the apartment I had paid to maintain and realized I was not losing a home. I was evacuating a life where I had become invisible. The movers worked with the efficiency of people who understood that hesitation could become regret. My desk disappeared first, followed by my books, computer equipment, kitchen tools, and the small collection of framed photographs Mason had always complained made the apartment look too personal. I cleared out my bathroom drawer, packed my work clothes, and removed the expensive perfume Mason liked to borrow before parties. I left his designer products untouched. By 11:30, the apartment looked as divided as our relationship had felt for months. His side remained polished, decorative, and expensive. Mine was gone. I walked through each room one last time. The kitchen counter where I had prepared his meals. The sofa where I had listened to him complain that nobody understood his creative ambitions. The bedroom where I had stayed awake beside him when he worried his new career would fail. I had built a stable world around Mason. He had mistaken that stability for something he was entitled to resent. By midnight, I was standing inside my new apartment across the city. It was smaller than the place I had shared with Mason, but the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city lights, and every room felt clean, quiet, mine. At 2:12 in the morning, my phone began vibrating. Mason called once, then again. The messages followed. Phyllis, where are you? Why is the closet empty? Where is your desk? My key does not work on the top lock. What did you do? I answered on the fifth call. His voice came through sharp and panicked. Where are you? In my new apartment. There was silence. What do you mean, your new apartment? I relocated. You cannot relocate out of a 4-year relationship without telling me. You told me Juliana did not like having me around. That was one party. You told me I was heavy. You told me I was a cage. I was angry. You were honest. His breathing grew louder. Come back. Bring your things back. We can talk in the morning. There is nothing to discuss. Juliana is downstairs. He snapped. We were planning an after-party here. What am I supposed to tell her? The question almost made me laugh. Even then, his greatest concern was how my absence looked to Juliana. Tell her the heavy energy has been removed. Phyllis, stop acting insane. I am not acting. I am leaving. His tone changed. The anger softened into the breathless voice he used whenever he needed me to solve something. Please, the rent is due next week. There it was. Not love, not grief. Rent. I cannot cover this place alone, he continued. You know how unstable my income has been. Ask Juliana. She does not have that kind of money. Then perhaps the two of you can follow the energy toward a cheaper apartment. You are punishing me. No, I am protecting myself. He began shouting again, accusing me of abandoning him, humiliating him, and sabotaging his career. I ended the call. Before blocking his number, I gave him one final answer. Do not worry, Mason. Juliana never has to see me again. The following morning, I removed myself from every shared account. The rent payment, utilities, internet, the joint credit card Mason had used for his gala clothes. I paid my portion of the balance and froze the card. 2 weeks later, his mother called. Linda did not ask why I left. She immediately demanded that I restore the rent payment. Mason received a notice from the landlord, she said. Do you understand what you have done? I stopped paying for an apartment where I no longer live. You were the provider. I was his girlfriend. You have a moral responsibility. To support a man who excluded me from his life because another woman disliked my presence? Linda sighed dramatically. You are being vindictive. No, I am being finished. She told me I needed to return. pay the overdue balance, and discuss the relationship like an adult. I told her Mason could ask Juliana for help. Then I ended the call. Several days later, a mutual friend named Sarah contacted me. "Juliana is gone," she said. Apparently, the eviction notice appeared on the apartment door 3 days after I moved out. The moment Juliana realized Mason could no longer finance the lifestyle surrounding their creative collective, she suddenly received an opportunity to photograph a project in Mexico. She left him with unpaid utilities, a dry cleaning bill, and several expensive event charges. Mason began selling clothes and furniture online. The designer suit from the gala disappeared first, then the shoes, then several bags I had helped him purchase. His messages began appearing through my professional email. I know I said terrible things. I was confused. Juliana influenced me. I missed my best friend. Then came the request. "Please lend me $5,000. I will repay you. I have nowhere to go." I did not answer. He did not miss me. He missed the foundation after discovering the beautiful life he had built, could not stand without it. The silence after Mason's request felt cleaner than any explanation I could have given him. I did not reply to the email asking for $5,000. I did not send advice. I did not remind him that Juliana had promised him a life without schedules, budgets, or the oppressive weight of responsibility. I simply archived the message and returned to work. My new apartment slowly became a home. I replaced the temporary folding chair near the window with a proper reading chair. I mounted my framed engineering diagrams above the desk and bought a dining table small enough for 2 people, even though I rarely invited anyone over. The quiet did not feel lonely. It felt earned. Without Mason's chaos consuming my evenings, I began performing better at work. I volunteered to lead a difficult systems migration that 2 managers had already avoided because the timetable was aggressive and the risks were high. For months, Mason had mocked me for caring about backup plans, deadlines, and contingency procedures. Now those same habits prevented a multi-million-dollar outage. The project finished ahead of schedule. My director called me into his office and offered me a promotion to Director of Systems Architecture. "You are the calmest person in a crisis," he said. Mason had called that quality heavy. My company called it leadership. The collapse of his creative life continued without me. Sarah occasionally sent updates, although I never asked. Juliana's collective had been exposed as a fraud. The organizers collected membership fees, promised high-profile brand opportunities, and used new payments to fund earlier events. Juliana had not been a creative consultant. She had been recruiting people into a polished Ponzi scheme. Mason's name appeared on several promotional documents because he had helped market the collective. Although he was not charged, his reputation in the local marketing community was damaged. Clients stopped returning his calls. The apartment was gone by the end of the month. His mother refused to let him move home after learning how much debt he had accumulated. Mason ended up renting a room in a boarding house and working temporary event jobs. His emails changed. At first, they were practical. "I need access to the shared cloud folder. Do you still have the receipt for the gala suit?" Then they became emotional. "I know I treated you badly. I let Juliana get into my head. You were the only real person in my life." One message arrived shortly after midnight. "I understand now that you were never a cage. You were the reason I had the freedom to chase anything." That was perhaps the closest Mason came to understanding. But even then, his apology revolved around what my stability had allowed him to do. He still saw me as infrastructure. Only now, he regretted tearing it down. I blocked his work email address. 8 months after I left, my company nominated me for the city's Innovator of the Year award. The ceremony took place at the same kind of event Mason once said I could never understand. A prestigious technology gala filled with executives, investors, and founders. I almost laughed when the invitation arrived. The supposedly heavy woman had become the person everyone wanted in the room. The night of the gala, I wore a tailored navy suit and arrived alone. Not because I had no one to bring, because I wanted the evening to belong entirely to me. The venue glowed with soft gold lighting. Screens displayed the names of finalists while servers moved through the crowd carrying champagne. I was speaking with a venture capitalist near the VIP lounge when I noticed a familiar figure by the service entrance. Mason. He wore the same silk outfit from the black and gold gala, but it no longer looked glamorous. The fabric hung loosely from his frame, and the cuffs were frayed. He was working as a brand ambassador, handing gift bags to guests. Our eyes met. His hand froze around the handle of a bag. For several seconds, he simply stared. Then he handed the tray to another worker and crossed the room. Phyllis. Hello, Mason. His gaze moved over my suit, my event badge, and the finalist ribbon pinned near my collar. You look incredible. Thank you. I saw your name in the program, Director of Systems Architecture. It has been a busy year. His face tightened as though my success confirmed something painful. I tried contacting you. I know. Juliana ruined everything. No. Juliana revealed what you were willing to risk. Mason swallowed. I was wrong. I waited. I lost the apartment. My career is gone. I am working 3 jobs. I live in one room with a shared bathroom. I heard things became difficult. Difficult? His voice cracked. It has been a nightmare. Then he reached toward my arm. I stepped back. Please, he whispered. Can we talk somewhere private? I do not want money. I just want another chance to explain. For the first time since leaving, Mason stood before me without a stage, an audience, or Juliana beside him. But even stripped of everything, he still believed the woman he discarded was waiting beneath the success he could no longer ignore. Mason stood beneath the golden lights of the gala, waiting for me to become the woman who had always rescued him. I know saying I was wrong does not fix everything, he said. But Juliana manipulated me. She made me believe I was meant for something bigger. She did not force you to exclude me. His eyes lowered. No. She did not force you to call me a cage. No. She did not make you spend months treating me like an obstacle inside the life I was paying for. His face tightened. I was arrogant. You were comfortable. Mason looked at me, confused. You believed I would always remain available, I continued. You thought you could humiliate me, remove me from important moments, and still come home to a paid apartment. I understand that now. Do you? Yes. Then why are you here asking me to reopen the door? His desperation sharpened. Because 4 years should mean something. They meant everything to me while we were living them. And now? Now they are a lesson. His eyes filled with tears. I miss you. What do you miss? All of it. Be specific. He hesitated. I miss coming home and knowing everything was handled. I miss the apartment, the dinners, the way you always knew what to do when things went wrong. I nodded slowly. You miss the infrastructure. That is not what I meant. It is exactly what you described. Around us, guests continued moving toward the ballroom. An announcement sounded over the speakers, asking finalists to prepare near the stage. Mason glanced toward the crowd. I was wrong about you being heavy. I know. You were my rock. That is still a description of what I did for you. He flinched. I loved you. Perhaps you did. But you loved me most when I was useful, and least when I expected respect. His sadness began turning into frustration. So what am I supposed to do? Spend the rest of my life paying for one mistake? It was not one mistake. I apologized. An apology does not purchase access. I said I do not want your money. You want the life attached to it. His jaw tightened. That is cruel. No. Cruel was telling your girlfriend to stay home because another woman disliked her presence. Mason glanced around, suddenly aware that several guests were watching. You are enjoying this, he whispered. I am not. You get to stand here in your expensive suit with an award while I hand out gift bags. I did not arrange this. You think you are better than me now. I think I stopped allowing you to make me feel smaller. His expression hardened completely. There it is. The superior corporate robot. The insult sounded almost nostalgic. Months earlier, it might have wounded me. Now it only confirmed that beneath the apology, the same resentment remained. Perhaps I am a robot, I said. But the robot pays her bills, keeps her promises, and does not discard people to impress a fraud. I hate you. No, Mason. You hate that I became unavailable. The event coordinator approached. Ms. Park, they are ready for you backstage. I will be there in a moment. Mason stepped closer. You are really going to walk away while I am drowning? I checked my watch. I am not watching you drown. His face twisted. I have not thought about you in months. This conversation is the longest I have considered your existence since I moved out. The words struck him harder than anger could have. For years, Mason had assumed he would always remain the center of my emotional world, even if he treated me like background scenery. Now he was discovering that I had built a life where he was barely a memory. He swallowed. So that is it? That was it the night you told me not to come. The coordinator called my name again. I stepped away. Mason, I hope you rebuild your life, but I will not be the foundation this time. He said nothing. I walked toward the stage. The lights became brighter as I entered the ballroom. My name appeared on the enormous screen above the podium. When the presenter announced me as Innovator of the Year, applause filled the room. I accepted the award with both hands. From the stage, I glanced toward the service entrance. Mason was gone. The space where he had stood was empty. For the first time, emptiness did not look like abandonment. It looked like freedom. Mason believed stability was dull because he never understood what it cost to create. He called me heavy, because accountability felt like weight to someone who wanted to float through life on another person's effort. I spent 4 years holding up a relationship that had already stopped holding me. Leaving was not punishment. It was structural repair. My name is Phyllis E. Park. I was never a cage. I was the foundation. And when I removed myself, everything built on my sacrifice finally had to stand on its own.